Emily Roberts, also known as the Guidance Girl, is the perfect mix of a psychotherapist, a speaker, author of Express Yourself, a mental health expert, who loves and works with crystals. So perfect girl for me, right up my alley, and perfect for us this morning. And let's bring on our guest this morning.
Bringing you some good vibes from Palo Santo.
Perfect. Found it a little bit difficult to meditate this morning, but I'm also just kind of being honest with myself and
Yeah.
not saying all bets are off, but really giving myself what I need. Like I needed before this to get outside. And whether that meant you and I doing the live from my walk, like I needed to get some fresh air, get some good music in my ears. So, and I think a lot of people are probably going through that. So I'm glad, I'm really curious to know some of your tools, you know, because as someone who works with people privately and in groups, you know, like, what'd you do? What are you doing today?
This morning, I woke up later than I wanted to because I was so tired. And I did some exercise. I did not want to go to the gym. We have a little gym in our building. I didn't want to. Like, I could feel my ego. And I think everyone can kind of relate to this, kind of being like, stay stagnant, stay in front of the TV, turn on your social media, start, rechecking. I felt that. And I could definitely tell because I've been doing a lot of the work myself that that's not going to help me right now. And so I had to kind of say, peace out, ego, you're not my ego right now. I did I did some working out. I felt in my body. I did a little bit of meditation. And I say a little bit because it was some intense Kundalini shifting of the energy. And I chose to do that because if I don't show up for myself, I can't show up for anybody else. And that used to feel like a statement of, oh, selfishness or something. But I notice a complete shift when I do these smaller things. It doesn't have to be intense. Like I said, it doesn't have to be an hour long. It can be a walk. It can be a quick, burst of energy, lifting some weights. But that right there helps regulate my nervous system and gets me in my body so I can be more of a conduit for whatever it is I'm trying to give to the world, essentially. And that got kind of deep pretty quickly, but that's how it works.
Right.
A lot of times I find that people are like, oh, just try and think positive, which we know doesn't always work at all. We're trying, really be positive energy right now. We have to be real with ourselves first before we can shift any energy around. We have to say, where am I right now? And what do I need to feel a little bit better or a little bit more aligned or just a little less free from this ego and division, this thinking, right? What can I do to get back to me? And if that means sleeping with a bunch of crystals and taking a bath in the middle of the day, do it. If it helps you feel a little bit more connected to yourself, please do it. The world needs us to show up with our loving energy and being able to heal ourselves and also help others,
I guess it leads me to, I know that you and I wanted to start with a bit of something, something kind of grounding, but it also leads me, and maybe we can merge this with my first question of, and I hate to be so cliche and use the word nail biter, but like, there was two ways this could have gone, right? It could have been what they call the blowout, or it's like super close. How do we don't know the outcome. How do we stay calm and the nail biter?
Breathe into it, but that is also cliche. So here we go, right? So I posted this thing earlier, actually. I've used it before. We're talking about like the nervous system, right? And I printed it out because I have this all the time. And who
I'm
can
so
relate to
glad
this?
you did.
Okay, so we're all in freeze or up here in fight or flight or wavering between. And this is what our nervous system does to try and save our lives. So if you're sitting there stuck and you can't stop scrolling, please don't beat yourself up, right? This is just the way that your body is trying to get you to regulate. It's not maybe being effective, but it's what it's a habit. Let's not beat ourselves up anymore. And if we're in fight or flight, if we're angry, if we're finding ourselves really pissed at the world and feeling really disappointed in others, let ourselves feel that for a second. But we have to really acknowledge where we are and where our bodies are telling us right now we are. It doesn't mean we're going to be stuck there, but I imagine that most of us fell asleep up here last night and woke up this morning with kind of this doom and gloom situation. It was really hard to wake up and be like optimistic. So I did what I could to try and get down into the green area, which is not just social engagement, because this is tricky. It was more about what can I do to get myself feeling a little bit more out of this funk for a second so that I can regulate my nervous system. Because if I'm up here or I'm over here, I'm not going to be doing anything effective. And this is where the healing happens. The healing happens. So we don't have an ailment. Like, you know, let's go back to Gabby stuff, Gabby Bernstein stuff.
Right, exactly.
And she would say, this is a mirror for something that needs to be healed inside of us. So what's really interesting is when I'm feeling like this, not only is my energy attracting more of this, but I'm also mirroring or taking on the mirror of what's around me. It's very interesting, because if I were to say, whoa, this feels messed up, I feel completely offline, I don't feel connected with myself right now. Wait, I can choose a different thought. I can choose a different action. I can do something a bit different. And that's a miracle, that little shift in saying, nope, not picking up that phone call. I'm going to continue listening to this song while I'm taking my walk, and I'll see how I feel afterwards, is a total game changer. So we want to be really mindful of the things that are working and the things that are only activating us to feel more disengaged and overwhelmed, you know? So I was speaking to a client this morning, and he was like, gosh, you know, I'm going to give myself some time at this period, because that's when I know I'm going to want to watch. And then I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do this other thing. And I was like, yes, tell me what else you're going to do. I'm taking some notes here too. You're going to read your book later? Okay, great. Like he had already kind of chosen to worry in those times, or to pick the times. Instead of letting it consume him, he decided when he wanted to consume.
Kind of brings me to something. So I think a lot of people really hoped that, I mean, most people, I'm assuming, hoped that we would have an answer yesterday. It adds to our uncertainty. So it's kind of like a twofer question that I have for you. So no matter what, a lot of people are going to be upset, angry, disappointed, hurt. How do we learn to live with the outcome no matter what it is, and know that internally we're okay and that we're going to survive this, whether it's, you know, we've gotten the winner that we want, and we need to learn to be compassionate with others that have a different belief system than us, or the person we don't want won, and holy shit, we have to live with this for 4 years. You know, how do we learn to deal with that? And then also, there's the aspect that I think a lot of people went to bed or woke up really sad, and really sad that there's such divide. How do we deal with that? And how do we not take it out on others?
Well, and please redirect me if needed, because I have a lot to say about this too. I think, first and foremost, acknowledging your emotions and not acting on them first. You know, acknowledging that we're going to be going through different waves of emotion: disappointment, grief, anger, frustration. We all went through those last night in about 5 minutes. And at the same time, when we acknowledge that we're having these emotions, we do not have to react. Like, if you didn't pick up the phone and text that person last night who may have activated some more anxiety or frustration, way to go, gold star, because we knew. So we can have these thoughts, we can have these feelings, we can have these frustrations. It's empowering to have these things. Our bodies are trying to protect us at all times. So feelings lead to healing. And at the same time, it sucks sometimes to feel. So one of the things that's helped me is recognizing that relationships are assignments. I'm supposed to be learning something from this relationship. So whether it be a friend or a family member who may not have the same political beliefs as me, what do I need to be learning about this relationship for myself? Does it mean that I cut off all ties with them? Likely not, because there's love here. I love this person. I wouldn't be so bothered by this person. I love other human beings. I wouldn't be so pissed off right now if I didn't feel so, truthfully, pissed off, not right now, but you know, at what's happening in the world, if I didn't have that love, if I didn't have that. And a lot of people have it. They've just been taught differently. That's hard for me to like really reckon with sometimes, because I want people to have some of the same beliefs as I do. But you know, what's the assignment here? We're all supposed to be learning something about ourselves and how we can maybe be, like I said earlier, conduits of change due to the fact that we don't agree with people. That's a harder, I say harder pill it is. You know, it's hard to recognize that I may love somebody and they have different beliefs than me. And what am I supposed to be learning here? Did that part come through?
Totally. You know, it's interesting because, yeah, it did. I was texting with one of my best friends yesterday, and I don't say this to put us down. I think we're both late bloomers. And so I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of my life that I didn't realize how self-consumed maybe I really was, or how much
Sure.
me, or as long as like I live okay, who gives a shit how the rest of it goes, or maybe I'm not smart enough to do all that, so I'm just gonna hope and pray that it all turns out. And a very bright, smart friend of mine who's a judge said, I'm really proud of you that, you've gotten this political. And I said, I really don't see myself as this political. I just think that, when I enter my 40s and it looks like things are falling apart, it's time to pay attention. And I was sharing this on text last night with one of my best friends, and she said, how sad for us that we finally, see it. And that brings me to another thing that I know you and I have talked about, which is kind of the duality of there's so much that 2020 has brought that does have darkness and that does have the heavy, but then there's so much of the light and the bright and the
Well,
gift that's come from it.
even the
You know,
sadness, going back to it, is it's I think it's actually very, I said this before, empowering in some ways though, because is it now you can see why some of these people potentially voted the way that they voted, not because you can necessarily believe in their beliefs, but you can understand that some people's views, they haven't had the worldviews or the experience, or they haven't been awake. They haven't had the opportunity to become awake. And so instead of it can be sad, but it can also be like, wow, I'm so grateful that I'm in a place now where I see things differently.
will you get into your thoughts on some of like the light that came from all the dark?
Yeah, I think that you put it perfectly. We have been able to, at the beginning of quarantine, I'm in New York City. So what a hot mess it was here. And just like probably how Doug felt, how everybody felt, no matter where they were, things shut down. It was a very vast, scary thing to our lives. A lot of people were doing at first because they don't think that they knew that this, no one really could tell necessarily, but people were like, oh, 2 weeks on, I'll just clean my apartment. I never organized my apartment. Okay. I'm just going to throw it out there because my brain was too afraid of, I couldn't focus on it. I couldn't like finally clean out my closet. No, because we're human beings having a human experience. And this doesn't feel right. What doesn't feel right, I've got to do some more digging. I've got to start to be aware of things. And what started happening for me, and I've seen this happen for a lot of my clients and for a lot of people, is we started aligning with other like-minded people. We started saying wait, I never had time to sit down and read an article about social justice before, or I never was exposed to this in my education. What a blessing that now I've got this podcast. I've got some more Brene in my, in my ears at all times. So I can do the research because I'm not as busy by BS, getting to the office, dealing with BS emails, doing the things that were really not serving me on my highest good or anyone else's highest good. The beautiful thing is when we say, maybe you didn't organize your closet, maybe you didn't write a book, maybe you didn't do whatever, but you did something that made you more awake to what's up in the world. That right there is the light. That's what we need. That's what we can bring forward. And if we're changing one person, say changing meaning helping them grow and find their gifts, or helping them feel loved and accepted, I mean, to me, that's worth it. That's worth sitting here in the silence and sitting here with a mask and not leaving my house for a while. It's worth it so that we can all heal. We cannot heal from things unless we see them.
Growth and change isn't always comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always cute.
Oh, never comfortable.
And I think that, the last 9 months, it's almost like, birth or from conception to giving birth, it's 9 months. So we've now had like that full cycle. Election day, imagine how much different it would have been 9 months ago, and that uncomfortable growth that our countries had to go through, whether it's living through a pandemic, knowing that that's like living through a shutdown that none of us ever saw coming. There's so much of that niceness that's come, whether it's families spending time together, our environment getting better, but also us being slow enough to see that horrible thing that happened, that like sparked the tinder that led to everything that's going on in the Black Lives Matter movement. And also, I think really gave people time to educate themselves.
What I was going to say though is the growth is so uncomfortable, and yet we're willing to do it because we chose to. We could turn our minds off. We could focus on the things that are comfortable, but getting uncomfortable it's not always cute. Like you said, it is necessary for us to change, for our country to change. So it's an empowering move. It's an empowering move to say, you know what, today I'm going to read this book I maybe would have never read before, because before the pandemic, I had no idea. And that doesn't make me a bad person. It just means I didn't have the exposure that I have now. Absolutely, because so we're in this very divided country, as we can all feel right now. And so in order for us to get closer to bridging this gap in division, what we really need to do is have that conversation and avoid the guilt and shame around it for ourselves. You know, it's not our fault, because we were all born, we didn't choose our bodies. I think we talked about this recently. It's like, I didn't choose my body. The universe chose this for me, or whoever, whatever anyone believes in, chose it for me. But I didn't wake up one day and say, that's the mom I'm going to have necessarily. Maybe not in this life. So we can't say that, oh, you know, my privilege or my whatever has kept me from this, but maybe it has. And so if I'm choosing to have a dialogue about it, if I'm choosing to have a conversation, if I'm choosing to educate myself, let's keep this conversation going, because this is the point, right? And it's also really important for people not to shame each other. I see that a lot on social media. I see people really, it's so easy to get into this. You should have known. How come you didn't know this? Because I wasn't born maybe in that particular time, right? The one thing I can tell you that has been very helpful for me, and that I've learned through the therapeutic work that I've learned and also practice myself, is I always have to ask myself, especially when I'm really on the verge of being like, right, like what is happening? Like, how can this person believe that? I have to say to myself, hold on, let's not react right now. Just wait, what am I missing? What am I missing? Let me get curious for just a second, because that's division, that's ego. It's me saying I'm better, they're better, something, you know, trying to make me feel like I'm at a more divisive space. When I can say what's missing, how can I learn a little bit more? What can I be curious about? That allows me to actually see more love, honestly. It helps me actually see this person may be struggling. This person doesn't get it. And it's not worth my time or energy sometimes to have this conversation right now. It's not. They're at a fight or flight place. I might as well just go do something that's going to be more of service for me or for the world. But trying to convince that aunt or that uncle that their political views are wrong, or that this is what's happening in the world when they don't see it. So here's the deal. If I notice that someone's over here and let's say it's a family member or a really good friend, and they are, you just feel it. This, you said protecting your energy, you feel it. They are on, I'm not going to have a conversation with anybody right here where anything good's going to happen. And it's so challenging to wait until I get more regulated or they get more regulated. But the truth is, I can save myself a lot of pain and hopefully put better energy into the world if I'm not going to use the word, trying to find a better word, hold on, not patient, willing to accept that they're there or I'm here, and it's not going to be a great connection. It may in a little while, but I've got to be willing to see. That is like, okay, if they're up here and I come at them, even if I'm like, oh my gosh, she looks so pretty, they're gonna be like, what are you talking about? Was that passive aggressive, right? No. So we got to be like, wait, I got to do things to get me regulated. I got to do things to be way self-aware and protecting. I maybe don't want to talk to that friend today. Maybe I'm going to wait a couple days, and I have the ability to do that because I know, I can tell, I can feel that things are not right in their world.
Do you have some tools off the top of your head for protecting our energy?
Totally. One of the things I learned a long time ago, and I learned this through several, at first I was like, this is too easy, it won't work, but it does for me. It's, first of all, taking the 30 seconds before I leave the house, before I get on a call, before I engage in another person's energy, to zip up my hoodie, zip up my thing. So especially if I know it's going to be something that could be taking or requiring a lot of energy, I mindfully just zip up. And I say this because I want to protect myself. I say a little mantra or prayer for myself before every call I do. I try and pause, do that, so that I can be more protected. And also it reminds your frontal lobe too that, wait, I'm in charge right now. I can decide. It pauses from this reaction to getting back in the moment. Another thing that I do, I love Palo Santo, is very cleansing and clearing. It also can help you remove any energy blocks. And so we were talking about this on our call recently, but I had a nurse practitioner I worked with who said, before you leave the house every day, I didn't do this every day, but before you leave the house, do this while you're doing your little zipping up. And I was like, but what if I leave it and it lights the house on fire? So that wasn't for me. And so I would do it when I would get home and I'd be there. I would take some essential oil, whether it be, there's some Palo Santo oils, there's some very grounding oils. I would put that on, and that scent, that sensory awareness helps me feel more in my body. So as I'm walking, as I'm leaving, as I'm needing that support, the scent connects me. It reminds me of my intention. And this is all about intention, because the scents are so rooting. They're so grounding. They take us back to this green space. They take us back to this, not just scents, anything tactile too. So like, if you don't have access to crystals, let's get you some. But I know you do. Anyone else doesn't have access, we'll get them some. But like, for example, selenite. I have so many sticks of this. When I was working in my office, I have it all over my apartment too, because it's cleansing, it's clearing. You can literally do a wand and, wand others. But it helps you kind of absorb it if that's something you're going to. Sometimes if someone's having a lot of panic, I'd say just pick a crystal or pick a rock or pick up anything, hold onto it, and let's just ground. Let's resource. Let's look at it. What color is it? What does it look like? What shapes do you see? And we're playing these tricks with our brain to get us back in the moment, because that right there is what gives you power. Otherwise, we're going to be being pulled into fearland 24/7. So another thing that you can do is play this great game that psychologists made a long time ago. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's 5 things you see in your center of vision right now? What are 4 things that you can touch? Where are you connected right now? What are 3 things that you can hear? And really pausing to say, do I even hear anything? Can I hear my breath? Can I hear the AC? It's slowly trying to turn on faculties that aren't really working in our body when we're in fight or flight. The second would be 2 things that you can smell and 1 thing you can taste. And that might mean you get up and you go get some tea, or it might mean that you go and you put on the lavender oils and recognize what's not working. I think that's the other thing. Do what works for you and recognize what's not helping. That might be the people, there's a particular person in your life that you don't, it's not because you don't love them, it's because you need to keep a healthy boundary for yourself. And that is a very loving boundary to have for them too. If we're not in the right place, how are we going to be communicating with, I say right place, if we're not in a grounded place, how am I going to be able to be truly in a good place for them as well? Does that make sense? And so I also think do what works.
We're not aligned.
Yeah. And so also if someone doesn't pick up the phone, or if you're feeling frustrated because someone didn't get back to you, recognize that they might be struggling too right now, and a little bit of space, exactly.
Girl, thank you so much.
Let's do it again soon. This is wonderful.
I was going to say, I mean, absolutely. And it's so just the beginning for us. And I can't wait till you're here or I'm in New York, but also really I know it's a awkward morning. So thank you for being in it with me and holding space for me and everyone else.
I appreciate you having me. As I said, I woke up this morning feeling weird, and then I was like, oh, but we get to talk. Yay. So for everyone out there who's feeling weird, remember, you get to listen, you get to talk, you get to be a part of the conversation. And thank you. I appreciate it. Let's do this again very soon.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And I would love to do it because I really want to touch on your work and Rock Your Worth, which is your other business doing crystal pieces. So I want to get into all of that, but this morning was important to do what we did. Bye,
Absolutely.
sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Take care.